Hello! At least 1 minute of video is needed to start a highlight. Oh, okay. Ooh, retouch on. Well, that's cute. Okay. Do the green screen. Still trying to learn what to do. Ooh, I can start a poll. Ooh, that's fun. I'm still trying to learn some of the stuff here on live. So, fun stuff. How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing? We're gonna have a conversation about Nancy Mace here. Okay. Now, this Nancy Mace is very emblematic of the type of Republican that we see today in Congress. And it's really interesting to break down from a political science point of view to really just look at this and understand why we are seeing the rise of people like Nancy Mace. And the reason for that is because they follow where the money goes. Okay? The right has made it popular to try and use bigotry for fundraising. And I don't think that's okay. I don't care what kind of bigotry or prejudice it is. Nancy Mace particularly uses homophobia and specifically transphobia in order to fundraise. And it's just absolutely disgusting that you decide to grift and make money off of trying to violate other people's human rights. Anyway, so we're going to have a conversation about Nancy Mace. So good morning, everyone. I love all of you. Even if you don't like me. Alyssa, good morning. Elisa, good morning. Akicha, good morning. Hello, Scott Ward. Ooh, we have the same name. And Devney, hello. So let's talk about Nancy Mace. Now, this isn't breaking news, but I still wanted to offer my thoughts about it and break it down for those people who have not heard of this. Now, as a disclaimer, today's show is also going to have a little bit more heavy opinion. So media literacy is really, really important. And I tell people, look, you don't have to agree with my opinions. You don't have to agree with my analysis. You don't have to agree with my interpretation. That's fine if you disagree with it, whatever. Make sure your disagreement is rooted in facts, not just prejudice or anger or anything like that. So today's show will be a little bit more heavy on my opinions or my take. So just putting that all out there. But I will very much delineate when there is an objective fact, okay? So it's important to point that out there. Now, you're not going to get that kind of delineation when it comes to other journalists. They're going to spew their opinion as fact, and that erodes the whole idea of journalism. So what we know as facts is that Nancy Mace had some sort of confrontation with someone in an Ulta. I believe this was last weekend. And because it's Friday, I decided to shake things up and I do a little bit more kind of playful, fun, drama-esque stuff on Fridays. So I appreciate every single one of you. By the way, I will not be, oh, thank you, Zeke. I will not be really looking at the chat very much. So if you're trying to get my attention, screaming at the top of your lungs, then just save your breath and just scroll on, okay? Minding your own business is free. So, I appreciate every single one of you, even if you don't like me, because I believe in spreading love and peace and understanding. So, let's break this down. This is a piece in The Advocate. Nancy Mace yells F you at a man she assumes is gay for a question in an Ulta store. The question was all about asking when she would have her next town hall. Okay. Imagine someone asks a Democratic lawmaker, hey, when are you going to have your next town hall? And that then Democratic lawmaker just goes absolutely nuts over that question. That would be really, really crazy and unhinged. I'd be like, you clearly are not okay. That's what happened here. This guy was just genuinely asking, hey, when are you going to have your next town hall? And she just absolutely goes berserk. Berserk. So we're going to be pointing all of that out. Simple question from a South Carolina voter about whether the congresswoman would hold any more town halls this year prompted a profanity-laced tirade, not from a fellow shopper, but from U.S. Representative Nancy Mace. And now, the Republican lawmaker is once again painting herself as the victim while using the encounter to demean LGBTQ people. And we'll break that down here in a second, but I just want to continue. Over last weekend, I know I'm a little bit late coming to this, but I still wanted to talk about it. I've been so focused on other things, but over the weekend, Nancy Mace posted a video herself that she filmed in the skincare aisle of a South Carolina Ulta store, showing her berating a man she assumes is gay, who asked about her public schedule. The man stood at a comfortable distance and spoke with a measured tone. Mace, however, quickly escalated the interaction, invoking LGBTQ issues unprompted, shouting obscenities, and accusing the man of harassment. For public figures like Mace, being approached in public by a constituent is unusual. It's a part of the job that she ran for. And this is what she posted on Twitter, and I'm going to get to some of the dialogue that happened here. She said, quote, "Some unhinged lunatic, a man, wearing Daisy Dukes at a makeup store got in my face today. Dems are nuts. So I went off, and I won't be backing down. I hold the line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Try me." Girl. Okay, before I start before I start reporting on some of the happenings of of this whole thing, let me just break down how this interaction went. And let me actually turn on my car's AC because it is hot in here. So yeah, I do my live streams in my car because I'm a working girl, so, and I don't have money for any sort of fancy studio in my place, so we just got to make do with what we got. Anyway, so the video that it said it had 2.3 million views. Well, I checked this morning, it has 7.5 million views. The video, she posted it herself, thinking that this video shows how unhinged this guy is. But in reality, when you really break it down and go and watch, and I wish I could play the video over live. I don't have the capacity to do that while I do my live streams on my phone. It really doesn't show that. It shows that she just gets unruly and very, very testy when he asks a question about hey, when are you gonna have your next town hall? And she then just gets all angry. But let me also point out, and I'm saying this as a gay man, I want to point out the homophobia laced in what she has said, her reactions, and the fallout over this. The man asked whether Mace would be holding any more town halls. Rather than answer, Mace veered off topic and said, quote, "I voted for gay marriage twice." So it became an escalation. Also, if you're enjoying the live stream, please make sure to send some likes. Like the stream. I love all of you. It became an escalation when he said, "Hey, when are you going to have your next town hall?" And she at one point said, "I've already done some town halls. I had one online this year," or whatever. And he just says, "Okay, what is your next one? When is your next one?" And she starts getting really, really testy. And then she changes the conversation. She attempts to do a whataboutism, and she changes and says, "Well, I voted for gay marriage twice." Nowhere in the conversation was there any discussion about the man, his sexual orientation, or anything like that. Nowhere in that was there any sort of discussion about, this is my sexual identity, this is my sexual orientation, this is who I am, this is something I care about. No, she just goes through and assumes that. Now, pause. I don't think her assumption is wrong, but assuming those kinds of things and being well, I voted for gay marriage twice. It's okay. And I'm saying this as a gay man. If I were, so I'm in front of a grocery store. I'm in a parking lot. I'm in front of a grocery store. Let's say that I go up to my Republican lawmaker. I have a Democratic congresswoman, but let's just say that I had a Republican congressman. And I walk up to him and I said, "Hey, are you going to have another town hall? Are you going to have a town hall this year?" And that Republican congressman says kind of gives me the runaround. and I then just say, hey, like, I really want to know when your next town hall is, he assumes that I'm like going against him in any sort of way. And then he says, well, I voted for gay marriage twice. I'd be like, okay, that doesn't answer my question. And you're assuming that's the only thing I care about. And you're assuming that based on what? Based on what? My identity, that you are supposing? You are right to assume that, but still, you see how it's kind of reducing someone down? Let me put another example out there. Let's say that you had a black woman go up to the Republican congressman and say, hey, when's your next town hall? When's your next town hall? And that congressman then says, well, I voted for criminal justice reform twice. Okay, is that all you think that I care about? It's this reductionist point of view where you're only assuming that the only thing that I am supposed to care about is a certain thing that you think I care about. Instead of asking me, what are your concerns? What is something that can be helpful for you? You see how it's this reductionist point of view? And whether Nancy Mace realizes that or not, that's kind of implicitly homophobic. And I'm not going to say that that's like the worst thing ever. I mean, it's not great. Those kinds of prejudices are prolific throughout the American population when it comes to so many different identities. But reducing a certain group of people down to only caring about one issue is really dehumanizing. And so she twists the conversation and says, oh, well, you know, I voted for gay marriage twice. And he immediately clapped back. And he says, she's like, well, he said, well, what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with me? And then she says, it has everything to do with you. So she's assuming this man is a gay man, which I don't think is a wrongful assumption, but you're literally assuming that the gay man, his only concern is LGBTQ issues. That's like assuming that my only concern is LGBTQ issues, which that's not the case. You see me on here. For the past week, I've been talking about the erosion of due process under the Trump administration, leading to U.S. citizens being racially profiled and then thereby deported. I care about a lot more than just something that might affect me. It's a very reductionist worldview. That's like, let's put the shoe on the other foot. That's like me going over to conservatives and saying they don't care about anything else except guns. Like all conservatives, which I don't think that's the case. I think some of you wrongfully will care about trying to demonize trans people or take away their rights. But like, you see how it's a very reductionist, very dehumanizing thing to assume that, oh, well, I think that you only care about this one thing. It's projecting onto someone what you think instead of asking them. And those kinds of things are just, whether people realize it or not, it's dehumanizing. So the gay guy claps back. I think he's gay. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. He claps back and says, do you think everything about me has to do with gay marriage? That's your first stance when you speak with me? And then she just goes, absolutely. So I think that Nancy Mace is attempting to get under his skin. That's what she's attempting to do. And by the way, speaking of getting under the skin, if you are trying to get under mine in the chat, newsflash, I literally have it hidden. I have it hidden. So if you're screaming at the top of your lungs trying to somehow be obnoxious towards me, somehow try and get my attention, literally save your breath and just scroll on, okay? Minding your own business is free. We don't need that. We don't need that. So he then said, okay, you can have a humane conversation with me. And then she goes and says, people on the left are absolutely effing crazy. And at that point, the man turned away, only for Mace to first yell, F you. So literally a congressperson is yelling F you at their constituent. Now, if you were to take this situation and put it back in like 2012, that would end this person's political career. Now these days, it's like conservatives have decided that, oh no, this actually is good. Like, just put the shoe on the other foot. Let's say, for example, that you had a Democratic congressperson yell F you at their constituent over being asked a genuine question about their next town hall. I would hope that you would look at that situation and be like, that's a little bit crazy. It's a little bit crazy. If you all of a sudden get so animated and upset over someone just genuinely asking you, when's your next town hall? Fox News would probably do like a 3-week whole press tour about it. But no, see, whenever I propose these hypotheticals, I do so on my live quite often. I always say put the shoe on the other foot, but see, it often never happens that way. But they can't do that because then they would realize that they're defending something that is indefensible. So the man who appeared stunned turned back and you say F me, you're going to, what is it? You're going to be voted out so fast, I can't for you to effing. And then she said, I'm not, I won by so much. Now, I don't know what the vote total was. The guy said, you're a disgrace to this state. That's what you are. I asked you a simple question and you go on this tirade and tell me to F you. She goes, yeah, F you. Get out of my face. So the clear aggressor, the clear escalator of the conflict is Nancy Mace. She clearly started getting testy when he just said, hey, when's your next town hall? And assumed, was homophobic and assumed something about this guy. Then escalated to the point where she then says, F you, when he then says, don't assume everything about me is me being gay. So you can see how in that interaction, she's the one that escalates the situation. She's the one that literally animates it and drives it. And what's so weird, or not weird, I mean, you can say that it's weird, but what's so just crazy is she posted this on her Twitter thinking that this somehow made him look like some sort of lunatic, which is really crazy to me. Now, I also want to point out something that I find to be really funny. This is just a minor detail. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it really just kind of shows the absurdity of this moment. She said, some unhinged lunatic, a man wearing Daisy Dukes at a makeup store got in my face today. By the way, let me just show you a picture of this guy, which low-key, this is my type of man. Just pure raw and simple. I tend to go for guys that are beefy or stocky. Okay, that's my type. All right, I love a man whether he just has thickness, muscle. I especially just like thickness. You know, I like fat boys. I like it. It's like, oh, I can cuddle with you. He's a little thickums, and he is super cute. He is super cute. And it's so funny because she said, oh, a guy wearing Daisy Dukes. Sweetheart, Nancy Mace, he is not wearing Daisy Dukes. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but he's not wearing Daisy Dukes. These are just khakis. So again, as I was just pointing out, in her post here, she says, some unhinged lunatic, a man wearing Daisy Dukes at a makeup store got in my face. These are not Daisy Dukes. They're just khakis. They're just khakis. I kind of wore Daisy Dukes yesterday. You want to see what a Daisy Dukes are? That's these. They're very short pants that are usually cutoffs, and they're denim. So not only does she escalate the situation being the aggressor, but she also makes this error. It's like Daisy Dukes or casual clothing became more widely acceptable, and the demand for denim soared. As early as the 1960s, people began cropping their jeans and turning them into raw hem cutoffs. And also, these cutoffs were commonplace in 1970s with an even shorter style dubbed Daisy Dukes after Catherine Bach's character in the television series The Dukes of Hazzard. So like, Daisy Dukes are very short denim shorts. They're not, they are not, they're not, this guy is not wearing Daisy Dukes, but factual accuracy is not what really MAGA cares about. That being said, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but also I want to point something out about this statement here. And I'm saying this as a gay man. The fact that Nancy Mace goes on to try and demean, says unhinged lunatic, a man wearing Daisy Dukes. Why did she feel the need to point out his pants? Why? It's because she likes what she sees? I don't know. Like, why does she feel the need to point that out? Let me tell you, as a gay man, my experience, my understanding, she's doing this as a purpose to try and demean someone for their physical appearance. She's trying to make fun of this guy for wearing what she calls Daisy Dukes, which are just shorter khaki pants. Which, by the way, they look really good on him. Okay, they look cute. I mean, I want some of that fried chicken. I want some of that fried chicken. But pointing this out here, she's doing this as a way to try and make fun of his physical appearance. She's doing this as a way to kind of just jab at him, like, oh, guys don't wear Daisy Dukes. It's kind of, I don't know, implicit or explicit homophobia. She's doing it as a way to talk down to, demean. So, like, if she wanted to make this post, she didn't have to include this wearing Daisy Dukes part to drive home her point. But she added it. Why? Because it signals to her MAGA base of super homophobic people red meat in order for her to fundraise. Oh, this guy with short shorts was coming at me today. It's like, why do you need to describe the short part if it doesn't help you drive home your point at all? But the reason she does is because that's the homophobia. That's the talking down to nature. And I'm saying that is, I don't know if people realize that a good chunk of my audience are people between like the ages of 35 and 65, and a good chunk of them are women, and love you ladies. That's not representative of everyone, but I'm just saying that as a gay man, the fact that Nancy Mace pointed this out, and you may have seen that, pointing this out shows her homophobia. Pure, raw, and simple, even within this. So let me also just say, like, she says, quote, I hold the line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Try me. What does the line consist of? That's my question. She says, I hold the line. I hold the line. Okay. Me, because I always ask questions like, what is the line? What is the line? Do conservatives, y'all know what line the line is? Because her her communications director, it kind of exposes her for what her grift is, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to get to some people's reactions first. So, harassing your own constituents. Wow. This person says you're a loser. Someone says you're a bigot. I'd imagine you can wear shorts that tight. So this is also really, this just shows how crazy some people are. She says, I imagine you can wear shorts that tight when you don't have any balls. Why in the world is someone even trying to comment that? That's just like, I tell you, right-wingers are so obsessed and weird when it comes to people, their clothing, or what bathroom they use. Like, it's creepy. Stop. There's like this weird obsession with like people wearing this kind of clothing, or like, why does it matter? Out of all the things that you could have commented on that post, this person says this, and Nancy Mace responds. She says, fair, but I'm not looking that close. Yeah, but you're looking that close at comments to respond to it. Like, it really is just creepy how much these people think about, wow, my green screen is totally disappearing one of my arms. Thinks about like what these people wear. It's really creepy and gross, in my opinion. Imagine thinking that this makes you look good. You literally told a constituent F you because he asked you about town halls. You look like an unhinged lunatic. He asked you a simple question, drama queen. Someone says you have real problems. Thinking this makes you look good and tough is ridiculous. You just look like someone who wants publicity more than anything and shows little common sense or respect for others. And this person's like, you support a felon, fraud, and a rapist 24/7 with zero political substance. You went off because a lying POS who doesn't do their job. Now, with all of this being said, she has a lot of different Fox News appearances where she's talked about this. So you're like, well, why in the world did she post it? Well, It's because this is something that has become new in politics. You find some sort of viral moment that you can attempt to spin in order to fundraise off of. Now, it's not just Republicans that are guilty of that. That's just what politics has become. That's what politics has become. You can even criticize Democrats for that. When you have a Democratic lawmaker, you can take AOC, you can take Jasmine Crockett, any sort of viral clip or moment that can then be posted to Twitter and allows them to be like, look at this scenario, and then they can fundraise off of it. Now, that's just how it works. That fundraising can be for a valid reason, or it can be for something like trying to demean or use transphobia like Nancy Mace does. When AOC or Jasmine Crockett do it, it's to make usually a much more substantive point about not violating people's human rights or the Constitution or the brutality as being the point. Whereas conservatives and MAGA, specifically Nancy Mace, uses it to drive home transphobia as a way to fundraise. That's just also what this current political whole economy has looked like. It is a strategy. It's a strategy. Now, you can say, oh, that strategy is bad, that strategy is good. I'm just pointing it out. That's kind of what politics has become. Now, for many people, it's like, okay, I don't think that's good. I think that's bad. All right. But also for me personally, it's like, okay, well, what is it that you're saying and doing to then fundraise off of? If you take a viral clip like that and you fundraise off of it by using your homophobia or transphobia, I'm like, that's gross. If you're pointing out when someone is literally taking away someone else's human rights, or when someone is doing excessive insider trading, I feel like that's different because you're pointing out another substantive issue. So that all being said, it's important to note that both sides use this kind of concept, but people like Nancy Mace and conservatives try to use this whole idea of creating this moment, this insane moment, in order to fundraise off of prejudice. It's off of prejudice, which is so sad because what these MAGA people are trying to do is create an economic model where you can be paid, you can earn money by trying to violate or take away other people's human rights. It's really the worst that the economy has to offer. And this person said, imagine being so deranged that you would post this thinking it makes you look good. Just wow. You need professional help, Nancy. And there are a lot of people that had more comments. Getting in your face, asking questions as a constituent about your job. This is so embarrassing for you. Yeah, it really looks like he got in your face. There's only one person who comes off as unhinged in this video, and it's not the man in the Daisy Dukes. Which again, they weren't Daisy Dukes. But that's just a small little minor detail. And then I like this one. You'll be pretending to be a Christian tomorrow as you celebrate Easter. What's so ironic is that a lot of MAGA people's, especially like Nancy Mace, a lot of her ideology, if you just go through and look at her Twitter, you just go through and look at literally what she posts on Twitter, it's all just about anger, fear, and hatred. Anger, fear, and hatred. Anger, fear, and hatred. Over and over. Over and over. There's nothing in here about justice for all, empathy, critical thinking, put the shoe on the other foot, following the Constitution, not just for what helps one person, but what helps everyone. Yet then she turns around and then says that she's a God-loving Christian. And I'm saying this as someone who grew up in a very, very Christian family. This is what God literally warns about. This is the kind of behavior of a pick and choose Christian. And I'm just saying this as like, I'm still kind of figuring out where I am with my religious journey. Though, if you are going to profess that you want to follow Christianity, I expect you to really work on following it. This is my one big issue that I have with Christianity. Let me just be completely frank. The one big issue I have with it is the idea that if you just believe, and this is just a small deviation, if you just believe that Jesus died for you, that then you're going to go to heaven. Well, you could be the most evil, awful, disgusting, rude, gross person and believe that and get into heaven. Whereas if you have someone who doesn't believe that and is a good person, one of the most upstanding citizens, really cares about the human rights of everyone, trying to do good works on earth, but they don't happen to believe that, then they don't get in. And see, that to me just doesn't seem right. That's my one big issue with Christianity. And I'm saying that as someone who grew up in a very Christian church. The fact that like a very Christian family grew up going to church every single Sunday. Now, unless I have some sort of, unless I'm incorrect about that kind of aspect, it just seems really weird that if you just believe this one fact that you can get into heaven and ascend. So what that kind of shows is that you don't need to be a good person to then get into heaven, which to me seems really weird and wrong. So, I mean, then in that sense, I guess you can say that right-wing Christianity makes sense because they don't have to care about doing good on earth. They don't have to care about doing good works. They don't have to, they don't have to abide by the ideas of love your neighbor as thyself, seek to be last, not first. You know, like, they don't have to care about the proverb of, you know, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. It's like as long as they just believe that one fact, then they're saved. And see, that's the thing. So for people like Nancy Mace, who then like to say that they're a Christian, it just the fact that you go around and you literally you fundraise. Sorry, I also just broke off my nail. That you fundraise off of trying to demean people is just, it just makes me like also just look at people who say that they're in a religion and be like, I don't know about that. So just pointing that all out here. Now, this is not the only scandal that Nancy Mace has really tried to, I guess, go for. Like, let me also just break down some other things here. Or this is not the only thing that she's been trying to do as of late. So hold on just a second. Let me get to it here. Yeah, so this is the constituent that was in that video. His name is Eli Murray Quick, later identified himself and said, "We took a trip to Ulta today and ran into none other than Nancy Mace." So he also speaks about this. Now, I actually, just as a quick little thing, I would love for this guy to use this moment to actually run against Nancy Mace. That would be incredible. That would be incredible for him to then run against her and try to primary her. I would totally support him. I'm from North Carolina. I might, if I have the opportunity, I would probably do whatever I can. And if I had the ability, I would move down there and work on his campaign. Now, it also depends on what other policies he supports and all of that stuff. You know, if he has, you know, progressive ideology and wanting to tax the wealthy and, you know, put in more regulations so that corporations can't just like walk over their workers. But that being said, I'd be interested in possibly working on his campaign if you were to run for Congress. That's just complete speculation. That's just completely like my desires. So, and this also was really, really important. He said, let's be clear, one yay vote doesn't undo the damage of the broader political choices. So Nancy Mace was like, well, I voted for gay marriage twice. It doesn't then, okay, great, thank you for doing that. But like, that doesn't mean that that's all that I care about, you know? It's very dehumanizing and demeaning and reductionist to view someone that way. As like, oh, your only issue is that. Also, it's important to point out that she often fundraises off of anti-LGBTQ sentiment, specifically transphobia. And we're going to get to that with Sarah McBride here in a second. If you're enjoying the live stream, please smash that subscribe button and click the like button, like the stream. I love all of you. And I love all of you, even the people that are trying to be annoying and obnoxious and rude to me. I don't hate you. I don't. I just think it's sad that you feel the need to constantly try and put down someone else on the internet. I actually just think it's sad. So, seriously, like, do something better with your time than try insulting a friendly little guy over the internet, trying to inform you about what's happening. I have the chat where it's like I can't even see it. So if people are trying to get my attention, if there's something that needs my attention, mods, please just text me. So also Nancy Mace, she's really, really obsessed with trans people. So we're going to talk about that now. She is obsessed with the idea of trans people. Who knows? Maybe she's like into them. There's no evidence to show that, but she could be, because she's introduced bills specifically going after Sarah McBride, who is the only transgender lawmaker on Capitol Hill. So we're going to get into that here. But just to point out, she has also supported bans on gender-affirming care. She's also failed to institute protections for LGBTQ people. And she often has been introducing legislation specifically going after trans people. And I want to get to that here. So House Republican Nancy Mace introduces transgender bathroom bill. Now, this bill is literally only going after one person, and that's Sarah McBride. Nancy Mace, a Republican from South Carolina, introduced a bill to ban transgender women from using facilities on federal property, like bathrooms and locker rooms. And what's really, really, really just sad is, like, she doesn't seem to care at all about any sort of slurs that she uses to demean people. Like, I don't understand. This is the thing. Even when I am so pissed off at any sort of person, I'm not going to use a slur at them, because that's a low blow. But I don't think many conservatives care about low blows, because I think the cruelty is the point. The harassment is the point. So, and often, let me just say, a lot of MAGA people, when they say, oh, well, we want to support free speech, free speech, free speech. Okay, great. I support the idea of free speech. They literally take away people's free speech all the time. But also, if you want to say, oh, I care about free speech, that doesn't mean that you don't have to be introspective about what you say. So when many conservatives say they care about free speech, they want the free speech to literally use the R word for people who might have a disability. They want to use slurs to describe LGBTQ people. That's what their free speech stems upon. If you want to use your free speech to say awful things, sure. By the Constitution, you have the freedom to do that. But then my follow-up is, should you? Should you? You say, I care about free speech. Okay. Why are you defending it? Why do you want free speech? So that you can use your free speech to harass others? You say, oh yeah, but it's free speech. Right, but what's the goal there? What's the goal there? Is the goal to spread love, peace, understanding, empathy, progress us into the future? Or is it just to be disrespectful? So if you're someone who fights for free speech to use slurs again, don't be going to church on Sunday and think that you're a good Christian, because literally that's like the opposite of what Christianity teaches. The point is, cool, you can of course you can fight for free speech. I am all for that. But if you want to use your free speech to try and demean others, or use your free speech to try and take away other people's free speech, like, you're not going to see me say that. You're not going to see me trying to write in any sort of legislation to ban people from saying slurs, because that does go against free speech. But should you be saying those things? If you want to use your free speech to demean others, what does that say about you? What does that say about you? Don't be looking at your kids saying that dad is a good person. Don't be doing that if you're going to then go out and use slurs against people. I don't use slurs against anyone, even people who identify different politically than me. I don't, because that's just too much. That's just a low blow. So Nancy Mace, a Republican representative from South Carolina, introduced a resolution, this was a while back, that would forbid trans women from using the restroom that aligns with their gender identity in the U.S. Capitol building. Now, to be clear, I don't know if the legislation is only for just the Capitol building or if it's for all, or for all like federal buildings or whatever. But if it's just for the Capitol building, then it's like, so you literally are only doing this just to go after one lawmaker, Sarah McBride, who is the only transgender lawmaker. Like, it's just, if it's that, I'd have to go and specifically read the bill over just to completely be clarified. So I'm not going to tell you if I don't know something for sure. That would just be kind of silly. Is that line that you're holding? So she, of course, does all of these little stunts like this. She said, I never thought we'd need a sign for this, but women's restrooms are for biological women, not men. Let's talk about this for a second. First off, why are you obsessed with what someone has in their pants? Genuinely, why are you obsessed with it? Do you want it? Do you want to like taste it or something? Like, why are you so obsessed with it? Also, the idea of having to prove what you got down there is creepy. It's creepy. So, like, you say, oh, well, it's for biological men or biological women only. Well, how would you know? How do we know, Nancy Mace, that you are a biological woman? How do we know that Donald Trump is a biological man? How do we know that Oprah is a biological woman? You can see how, like, the idea behind all of this hysteria is just trying to fearmonger. Like, and then you say, okay, well, prove it. Yikes, no, gross. So even when you write in these kinds of laws saying, oh, it's for biological men or biological women only, you are like, what kind of enforcement mechanism is there? It's just meant to stir up fear and hatred and prejudice. So like, and what, do you have to like prove it by showing something? That's gross. That's gross. Also, let me point out that there is a subsection of the population that are intersex. And you're like, wait, what? Yes. There is a small portion of the population that have both male and female biological characteristics. They are called intersex. And you're like, wait, what? How does that exist? Well, throughout a lot of human history, when babies are delivered, oftentimes if they have both male and female genitalia or parts, they often will try and go, okay, well, we're just going to try and simplify it so that this baby is more male or more female. That happens a lot. Go and ask OBGYNs. Go and ask people that are a part of delivering children, delivering babies. They will do that quite often. Now, there's some people that are born and that is not something that is done. Those people are often intersex. I guarantee that you've met someone who's intersex. I guarantee you have. But whether or not you realized it or not, completely different. So there are many people out there who are intersex. They're not like a huge chunk of the population or anything, but they exist. They exist. So what are they supposed to do? You know, like the fear mongering around who can use a bathroom, it's really, really crazy to me. Also, you've probably used the bathroom with someone who is trans. Let me show you some pictures of people. If you want to enforce this, only biological women can use the restroom, which is flawed in the way that it's said if you actually understand how all of this works. Let me show you some pictures of trans men. So you want this person in your bathroom? They obviously had a surgery to get rid of their breasts, and they're on testosterone. Does this look like a woman to you? Let me give you some other examples. if you're like, oh, I don't believe these people exist, go and check it out for yourself. Like, you want this guy in the women's restroom? That's what Nancy Mace is asking for. You say, I want biological women in there. How about we all just go to the restroom and mind our own business? It really doesn't need to be this big thing. It doesn't need to be. Or this guy, Brian Michael Smith. He's a trans man. And but so like, where does this hysteria stop? There's no enforcement mechanism for it. Now, I want to actually share a personal thing for me. I grew up in a very Christian, conservative household. I'm from North Carolina. Are you all familiar with HB 2, House Bill 2? This was done in the days of Pat McCrory when he was our governor. I did not understand anything around this whole transgender bathroom fiasco. My older brother, like, I was raised MAGA. I was raised Christian conservative. I was like kind of in line to be like a altar boy. I didn't understand this whole thing. And it wasn't until my brother fully sat me down and explained to me this whole thing. I truly didn't understand what a trans person was. I was like, that's crazy, that's weird, I don't like it, I don't want them in my restroom. What controlled my thinking was based on pure ignorance and fear. Pure ignorance and fear. That's what it is. So for any conservative person who might be feeling that exact same way, trust me, I get it. I was there. You might be like, I don't know a trans person. I don't understand it. Get to know someone who's trans. Understand their experience. Listen to what they have to say. They don't want exceptional treatment. They just want to have equality. And there's a reason why more and more people are coming out as trans today, if you would just listen to why. That all being said, I said, well, I said to my brother, well, I don't think it's right for them to be using that bathroom. He goes, well, how are you going to know what people have down there? I said, well, I guess I'm not going to know. He goes, and what? Are you going to like hire a cop to stand outside the restroom, look down your pants to see what you got, and then say, okay, valid entry, proceed? And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I guess. He said, well, by that definition, I said, anyone can dress up as a woman and enter the men's restroom. Or enter the women's restroom. And I'm like, and my brother's like, well, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why in the world would they do that anyway? To like hurt people? You don't have cops standing outside restrooms anyway. So like the idea of, I was so afraid of people trying to hurt other people. That was my reasoning. And I'm like, and my brother was like, why in the world do you think that men are going to dress up as women and go into the women's restroom? And I said, oh, well, they might hurt women. And my brother goes, well, they'll do that whether this bill is there or not. So if there's a bill that says only biological men or biological women can go into the respective restrooms, what, do you think that thing on paper is going to stop people from doing whatever hypothetical awful thing that you have in mind? You think that that's going to stop them? And what does the enforcement look like? Are you going to have every single bathroom have a guard outside saying, hey, show us what you got in order to enter? What it does, the idea behind it is to specifically fearmonger about the existence of trans people. If you're afraid of a man dressing as a woman and going into the women's restroom to do something awful, guess what? That's not going to be solved. That's not going to be solved by banning people from going to the restroom who are trans. That's not going to be solved by that. You know what can be solved by that? De-escalating crime and actually flagging those people down and having repercussions for those kinds of folks. It's not by throwing trans people under the bus in order to have that done. Fear-mongering about trans people is not going to accomplish that goal. And I didn't realize that at first because I was brainwashed into that kind of thinking. What it does is this just dehumanizes and strips the ability for these people to have equal access, equity, and human rights. It fear-mongers about their existence in the pursuit of your false equivalence of the idea of safety, specifically for men or women. And also, it's just meant to be a distraction. It's meant to be a distraction. Does that all make sense? Does that all make sense? I appreciate every single one of you. I hope that you all are following me there. I hope that you understand. It's important to put in perspective that like no amount of laws like that are going to actually protect anyone. Like no amount of laws like that are going to then protect people from being victims. It's not. Someone said everything you say is a fallacy. I love how that's your one excuse. I love how instead of listening to the logic that I'm putting out there, you just say, no, 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 no. Is cognitive dissonance really getting you down? Is it really getting you down? I don't think that some people truly understand the existence of trans people. There are many people who are trans like this. Does this person look like a woman to you? No. No. They, like, you can see obviously super masculine characteristics. There are many trans men who have top surgery. They might have bottom surgery as well. They are on testosterone or estrogen, or like trans people are on testosterone, estrogen, whatever. The idea of, oh, this biological men going into the biological men's restroom. So you can have, if you say, oh, well, biological men go into the men's restroom, what does that do for Sarah McBride? Sarah McBride is a trans woman, but you and your transphobia is claiming that she's a biological man. So you're going to force her to go to the men's restroom, jeopardizing her safety. The idea behind all of this is to fearmonger that there are people out there who don't fit the conventional norm of being what they claim to be, what is a man or a woman. Let me also just say this. There is a lot more than just this or that. This world isn't so black and white as everyone likes to accept. The world, like, there is way more nuance. There's way more gray area. And also, there's way more to sex and gender than people realize. And if you don't know about it, that's okay. You should just learn. Learn about it. Let me give you an example. There are some cases of trans men who have the biological physical capacity to carry a pregnancy to term. It's very rare, but it is possible. So whenever you hear me talking about abortion or reproductive rights, I say women and people with the capacity for pregnancy. And you say, well, wait, what? Doesn't that just mean women? Well, yeah, but also there are many women who cannot get pregnant or carry to term. They might have to use IVF. But also there are men, trans men who literally look very masculine, yet they still have the biological capacity to carry a child to term. It is very rare, but it is possible. And it happens. There's actually a term for them. They're called seahorse daddies. And you say, why seahorse? Because actually the male seahorse is the one that carries the child. carries the embryo, the fetus. If you go and look up seahorses, it's really fascinating. That all being said, Nancy Mace truly doesn't understand and instead just fear-mongers off of trans people existing. It's like, okay, you say, oh, biological men shouldn't use the women's restroom, is what they're trying to erase trans people. Well, this is a trans man here. You want him using the women's restroom? Okay, let me give you another example. This is a trans man who you deem is still a woman. So you want him to use the women's restroom? You see how, like, they do this nonsense, prejudice, fear-mongering, scare tactics to stir up the base. There are many right-wingers or MAGA who truly don't know, have never met, or really talked with trans people. Go and talk with trans people. They're not asking for exceptional handouts. They just want to be left alone and respected. It's really not that hard. And you say, well, why is there this whole thing about trans people and trying to include them? Well, do you realize that so many trans people felt so scared to be themselves for the longest time? How about you listen to their stories? You want to talk about being a man? Being a man is not not having your identity threatened by the presence of someone else. I know some of the most masculine men out there are the ones that have gay friends. And they are totally secure within their sexuality, being straight men, having gay friends. Those are the super masculine men, because they're not afraid. Their identity, they don't feel threatened by the presence of having friends that have a different sexual orientation than them. That is, I'm going to say, people like me who get on here every day and probably constantly face harassment in the comments from faceless commenters that have nothing to do with, that do nothing. I don't want to be like, I'm a real man, but like, I have way more guts than many people would. Cause like, I come on here and everyone, like, there are so many people that try to make fun of me. Me just trying to elevate and stand up for the human rights of other people. All of that being said, like, being a man means that you are not insecure about your identity in the presence of other people. I don't have to worry about my identity in the presence of others, because I'm secure and confident within who I am as a person, to not feel like someone else's presence somehow jeopardizes my ability to live out my authentic truth and life authentically. With Nancy Mace and her whole fear-mongering, this is a trans man. You want him using what you call the biological women's restroom? You see how the intent behind this is to fear-monger about people. And this isn't even the only thing. So Nancy Mace, this is nothing new. These kinds of stunts, trying to harass gay men in Ulta, it's nothing new. Because she did this whole stunt. You all remember this? She did this whole stunt where some activist advocating for transgender people's human rights shook her hand, and she then accused him of assault and then wore a sling to the Capitol. Yeah, no, you heard me right. She ended up wearing a sling to the Capitol building. Let me also just, in December, she falsely accused a transgender foster care advocate, James McIntyre, of assaulting her with a handshake. Now, the case eventually was dropped after eyewitness accounts contradicted Mace's claims. Yet she went so far as to literally wear a sling. Do you all, and I have to go here soon because I need to get to work, but do you all know who Natalie Johnson is? I want to talk about Natalie Johnson for a second. Natalie Johnson is Nancy Mace's former communications director. She's a Republican. I will show you her Twitter here in a second. Natalie Johnson is the former aide, communications director for Nancy Mace. She is a conservative. She's a Republican. And I'm not here to talk about anything else of her political positions other than the fact that she's used to work for Nancy Mace. This is not a segment trying to go after her or anything like that. I'm simply just going to point out some facts here. Just a ploy for media attention. Ex-aide says that Mace's anti-trans tirade is a stunt to get on Fox News. Natalie Johnson is someone who used to work for Nancy Mace. She probably holds a lot of political positions I find wrong or abhorrent, personally. But also, Natalie Johnson, Mace's former director of communications, took to X to question the motives of Mace's bill to ban trans women from women's restrooms in the House before Sarah McBride, the first transgender member of Congress, is set to take office. She said, quote, "If you think this bill is about protecting women and not simply a putting on Fox News, you've been fooled." Now, to be clear, Natalie Johnson these days doesn't work on Capitol Hill anymore. I think that she has a couple kids or something like that. She lives out in Wyoming, and she's still active on her Twitter. And I'll show you that in a second. She was, I think, pulling for Tim Scott in the Republican primary. So she's conservative. And she posted on here, tweeting 262 times about a bill that applies to like 0.0000001% of Congress in 36 hours is definitely about protecting women. It's certainly not just a ploy for media attention. And that was a response to Ron Filipkowski saying that Nancy Mace has now posted 262 times on X in the last 36 hours about the bathroom. Like, it goes on. It goes on. And Alyssa Farrar Griffin was like, if I tweet 262 times in 36 hours about anything, please do a wellness check. And then she said, literally, same sis, I'm crying out for help. And Natalie Johnson, this is a former communications director for Nancy Mace. She lives in Wyoming, as of my knowledge, right here. And she often posts pictures of dogs or, animal videos, or how she's at peace living out in Wyoming. It's not personal expose about her, but this is someone who also has very, very Republican political positions. And just to kind of point that out, she goes on talking a lot about, her time in Congress. This is the same woman who told staff, myself included, that during January 6th, she wanted to get punched in the face by a rioter so she could get on TV. She's full of shit, and her prop is a sling. It's a pathetic ploy for attention. This is literally her former communications director. This is also someone who posts things like this, obviously kind of poking at Joe Biden's cognitive decline. So it's not like she's, that doesn't mean that you are MAGA or anything like that, but this is back in 2023. She said, Tim Scott is a stand-up man with stand-up values who represents exactly where the party should be. His team is among the best in the field. Tim Scott was a Republican that ran for president. So this is someone who is Republican. She's not a woke deep state plant or anything like that. But I think it's also important to listen. I really would love for her to release a book about Nancy Mace and her time there, because I don't see why she would have any incentive to lie. I don't see why Natalie Johnson would have any incentive to lie about her time in Congress. She's not trying to make any sort of money or big moves off of it or anything like that. So, also, she literally reposted something advocating for some people saying that they should get out of NATO. So this is not someone who is like a woke Democrat. So, and of course, Nancy Mace uses situations like this to then go on Fox News and talk about stuff. It's like he asked one simple question: when's the next town hall this year? And you unleashed a vile, unhinged, profanity-soaked tirade that screamed zero class. And I also wanted to read a couple other comments, and then I'm gonna have to go here. Someone said, "You're awful. That video in the grocery store you took was a disgrace." I don't know if that was in a grocery store. It was in an Ulta. But anyway, someone's saying, "Stop wasting taxpayer dollars." And then, where was it? Hold on. I wanted to. Where is it? It's right here. This person was really, really interesting. This person says, "I'm usually on your side for the rack alone, but you did seem to overreact a tad because of a constituent asking a fairly innocuous question." As a quick little aside, I read this comment and I'm like, this shows that some people literally in this country, their political ideology is based on the physical looks of someone, which is just crazy. Have an ideology, have a moral set of values and beliefs. Don't just be like, I support them because they look hot. I just had to point that out. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is she actually, this really shows how deep the brain rot is with someone like Nancy Mace. This was, so you all know how recently the Pope passed away, and one of the last people to talk with the Pope before he died was J.D. Vance. Let me unilaterally state there's no evidence to show that J.D. Vance killed the Pope. There's no evidence to show that. If there is evidence to show it, then I would really hope that they would bring it to light. Because that's what you do. If you're going to make a claim, you need to have evidence, and then there needs to be a trial where the evidence is heard out, the witnesses are heard, and cool. When the left is joking that J.D. Vance killed the Pope, it's just a joke. Now, if there are any sort of Democrats or leftists or anyone that truly believes that without evidence, then they are the exact ones that they are doing the exact same thing that MAGA does when they believe and go down their conspiracy theory rabbit holes. They become exactly what they're supposed to be condemning. Now, I'm not going to say that there's no leftist out there or Democrat out there that truly believes that, but like anything, if you're going to make a claim, you need evidence. When the left, broadly speaking, when Democrats will say like, oh, J.D. Vance killed the Pope, it's just a joke. It's not meant to be serious. It's just funny. Because J.D. Vance met with the Pope and then within 24 hours he died. It's just meant to be something a little bit funny. So she truly believes that the left actually thinks this, to the point where she puts out on her Twitter, no, J.D. Vance did not kill the Pope. The left is absolutely nuts. And so Larry the Cat, which is the Democratic poster, was like, I don't think anyone of any political persuasion thought that. But now that you mention it, and this person just posted this, the joke going over the head of you. Again, I'm not going to say that there's no Democrat or leftist that truly believes that, but if there are, they're just literally so few or or there's just like none of them. The left does not actually think this. They're trolling. They're just laughing about it. Think of, you know what's so funny? Let's put the shoe on the other foot for just a second. Just a second. Let's say that Donald Trump, let's say that Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris met with the Pope, and then within 24 hours, the Pope dies. The right would probably make the same kind of gesture. Be like, oh look, Kamala Harris killed the Pope. Now, unless someone truly believes that, that's like, okay, if you're going to believe something, you need to have evidence. There needs to be some like proof here for you to make this claim. But like, if some of them would probably just say it as being trolling, not actually believing it. Some people might truly believe it. And see, that's where I say, if you're going to make a claim, have evidence to it. It shouldn't matter what your political affiliation is. But for people like Nancy Mace, they truly believe the kinds of things. And it goes to show where their brain truly is. When the left jokes about it, they're just joking about it. They're not being serious. But this is what right-wing brain rot does. This is what it does. So that's why I say always have an ideology or a set of beliefs. Have a set of morals or values that you live by. Have an ideology. And so Mark Hughes was like, you really felt the need to clarify that, huh? And then this person wrote, we feel the same way about you GOPers and your conspiracy theories. Exactly. Exactly. And to really show you just how unhinged Nancy Mace is, she goes on to post things like this. She's like, good morning to everyone except men who wear Daisy Dukes. Going back to that whole confrontation she had with that person in Ulta. It's like, and then you turn around and say that you're a moral Christian fighting for good. Like, girl, constantly making fun of people, posting a video about it. Normally, I wouldn't put up stuff like this because this person's trying to make fun of her appearance. But the fact that, like, when she makes fun of other people's appearance and constantly uses it to make money, I'm not going to feel bad by putting this up there. This person said, all I ask is that you never wear them. I've seen better looking legs at KFC. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough. Now, people think, oh, don't be unfair to her. I hear you. And usually I'm not that person to stoop like this. But this is Nancy Mace. This is literally someone who makes their whole career off of trying to do this kind of stuff. Maybe a little bit of fighting fire with fire might actually get her to wake up a little bit. You never know. So that's pretty much everything for today's show. I find this whole thing with Nancy Mace just to be so, personally, I find it to be just so disgusting. She literally uses homophobia and transphobia to fundraise off of. And it's just disgusting. It makes me so sad that someone has to stoop like that in order to make a living. So, anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. Were there any new members of the channel today? Shout out to all of my amazing mods in here and all my good friends. I love all of you. I really, really do. Ivy Rose, I will say don't just go down to like, oh, both sides are awful. Be more nuanced than that. Look at the situation. Look at the situation clearly and ask yourself if the criticisms that you have of Republicans are as equally bad for Democrats and vice versa. It's so funny that whenever I call out, and this happens all the time, as someone who is as a former Republican, I grew up in a very Christian conservative household. What's so interesting is when I often do segments where I call out the hypocrisy of the far right, MAGA, there's always, the next step is for some of those people to be like, oh, well, both sides are awful. It's a knee-jerk reaction in order for you to justify not fully changing your mind, but also denouncing that. And that is progress. That's progress. But also, it's okay to not feel like you have to both sidesism your way out of that thinking. I was fair until I read history, right? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, nuance is critical, 100%. So, that makes no sense, bud. I think that you probably just weren't listening. So, anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all are awesome, even if you don't like me. Shout out to my amazing moderators in here. Ilisa, love you. Cherie, you're awesome. Who else was in here today? Ellie, Cat Mommy, I love you, Cat Mommy. I'm on your side is all I know. Well, do you know what my side is? I know this guy's family is embarrassed, says Pothead. My family's not embarrassed. They're not. I saw my mom this morning. So, yeah. Yeah, no, they're not embarrassed. Not at all. I love all of you. See, you know what's so funny is the people who are constantly trying to get under, try to, like, be mean to me. What are you trying to do? I'm not your enemy. Why are you trying to make me your enemy? Do you have a crush on me or something like that, Pothead? You have a crush on me because you're literally trying to get my attention. You have it. You want to say something? um, like, it's dude, do something better with your time. Do something better with your time. I'm not gay. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I love all of you. Potheads in love. I love all of you, even if you don't like me. Shout out to all of my amazing mods in here. Jenny, Cherie, Elisa, you're awesome. Ellie, y'all are all incredible. Akicha, Joanna Tech, Kate, love you. I couldn't do any of this without my mods in here. Y'all are just incredible. Seriously, like some of the best people ever. And all of my good friends in here. Ginger Monster, Cat Mommy, Cantisa, MJ. Who else was in here? Are there any other friends that were in here? I love you all so much. Thank you for supporting me in what I do here. Oh, have an amazing day. Oh, yay. Yes, you too. And have a fantastic weekend, everyone. If you enjoyed the live stream, please make sure to smash that subscribe button. Keep up the hard work. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that, Toes Beast. Someone's name is Frost King. That's a fun name. Anyway, I love all of you so much. Just remember, oh, witty pseudonym. That's nice of you. Thank you for the little hearts. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!